Welcome, everybody, to Pseudo Short number 8 for April 28th, 2017. I am your host, Josh Kaiser, and joining me today, Josh Haddix.
How's everybody doing?
And Kyle Hoagland.
Hey. What's up, guys?
Just enjoying...
Was that a Fat Albert impersonation, or...?
No, I mean, if it was a Fat Albert, I could have tried a little harder on the Fat Albert.
I mean, you could try a lot. You could try a lot harder than a lot of things, like this, like these podcasts, for instance.
You've been talking to my wife lately?
Dang, dude, that...
Speaking of you and
This
your
guy.
wife, we are doing our Pseudo Short again. For those of you who don't know, it's our off week podcast where we do a topic that usually doesn't deserve or need a full 90 minutes, and maybe it could be on any sort of topic. And today we're going to break down the first day of the draft, which, as of us recording this, we are a couple picks away from finishing up. But we thought we'd get a head start on this, and you guys can listen to our thoughts here Friday morning, our initial thoughts. And I guess it makes sense for us to quickly start with the Cleveland Browns, as we are, big Cleveland Brown fans. And it just so happened they had the first overall pick. And despite all of the leading up storylines and smoke screens and everything, they did go with the best player in the draft, according to pretty much everyone, in Myles Garrett. So initial thoughts on your guys' end on us taking Garrett over, let's say, a quarterback or somebody else.
Well, go ahead, Hack, sorry.
I'll say I just thought it was a no-brainer. I'm curious how legit, because in the last 24, maybe 48 hours, there was a lot of noise that we weren't going to take him, that we were going to take Trubisky, or, I even saw some other things. And you wonder if that's just got started randomly.
I think it was gamemanship. I think it was the Browns putting it out there to try to stir up other people to make different moves to hopefully sort of lay the foundation for their 12th pick, which we can get into here in a second.
Yeah, it was a good pick. I mean, like Haddock said, it didn't make any sense from an investment standpoint as a number one overall pick. There wasn't anybody that was going to wow you. I think that if we were going to go quarterback, there's going to be somebody available. Obviously, we'll talk more about it. There's a couple surprises, but I think all of that smoke and mirrors and the talks of potentially the Browns taking a quarterback probably might have affected the decisions that the guys under us made, which, like I said, obviously did happen.
So we'll just kind of get into the quarterback talk right now, but I'll start it by talking about the Browns. I think the reason they put all that stuff out there, and it was like, oh, they're taking Mitch Trubisky. They really want Mitch. I mean, everywhere it was is Mitch. I think they wanted Patrick Mahomes. I think that was their guy from the beginning. I think that's the quarterback they wanted, and I think they thought, we'll get Garrett at 1, and we can get Mahomes at 12. And lo and behold, the Kansas City Chiefs, with one of the biggest, I would say one of the biggest surprises, trading up to 10 to get ahead of us and draft him. And that could be it for the Alex Smith era in Kansas City, which I don't know about you guys. I think they needed a quarterback for the future, but I'm a little surprised that they did what they did to get him now.
Well, I think Gruden made a good point. I think their plan is to have him sit behind Alex Smith. I mean, Alex Smith is a great quarterback. Hoagie drafts him every year in fantasy football. So, I mean, that just goes to show you how great of a quarterback he is.
Absolutely.
But I don't think he's your guy to win a Super Bowl with. But you bring in a young guy who you think has talent, and you let him sit behind Alex Smith, because Alex Smith is a good football player. He's just not an amazing quarterback, I guess. I mean, he's a game manager. He's not going to win you a game. So I think you bring in a guy, you have him sit behind Alex Smith for a year or two, and then you have him take over and, I don't know, get rid of Alex Smith. He can come play for the Browns or something like that.
Well, he's the kind of guy that you want to play behind. You don't have like a superstar there, but you have somebody who's a veteran. He's only 32 years old. That's the thing. Like, he's not like he's washed up. I'd probably say right now he's in the prime of his life as far as a quarterback is concerned. This is around the time where I think you're going to plateau around this age. So obviously Alex Smith is not a spring chicken, but he's also not an old man. And there's no quarterback in this draft that is a Andrew Luck or somebody that you're going to throw into a system and hope for the best. I mean, that even goes I don't even think Mitch Trubisky is that guy. Obviously, if the Browns got him, I think we would insert him in there, which I would have felt bad for. I really, really would have felt bad if we put somebody in there where we don't have somebody that can coach him up and for him to play behind. And I don't mean coach him up like as the offensive coordinator. I mean like a quarterback that can really give them some knowledge. You know, a guy like Aaron Rodgers is a perfect example of that, where he was a late first-round pick, and he played behind Brett Favre for a couple of years, learned a lot of things, obviously, and now he's the guy that is questionably the best quarterback in the game right now as far as pure talent.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, I agree with you guys. I think it's a great fit for him there. Andy Reid's a great quarterback coach, and I think it'll work out well. But I think that's unfortunately the Browns lost there, and that's why they traded back and ended up taking Jabril Peppers. And actually, as we speak, the Browns traded back in and took the tight end from Miami, David Njoku. I don't know how to say his last name, but he was one of the top tight end, prospects coming into the draft. And I think shocked the world. The Browns took 3 draft picks in the first round, not a single quarterback. So
I was just say I'm surprised.
What are your guys' thoughts? I guess. I mean, are you happy that was there a quarterback you wanted? I guess I should say.
I think to what Hoagie said, I don't think there was any quarterback that was blowing anyone away this year. So I mean, maybe the Browns figured let's fill in elsewhere. I mean, hey, we have Osweiler. So, maybe they think we're set when it comes to the QB spot, or at least for now. I don't know. I thought we were going to take a quarterback, especially when we traded back in here to this 29th pick. But maybe you're right. Maybe they lost their guy to the Chiefs, and now they're just like.
I think they did. I absolutely think they did. There was a lot of talk that Mahomes was big. He was big on him earlier. Leading up to the draft, and I think that was it. And there's a reason why we traded. All of a sudden, after they took him at 10, you saw the Browns trade way back to 25, and that's another quarterback we can talk about in that trade is they traded back to the Houston Texans, who have pretty much given the Browns their 2018 draft class over the last couple of weeks. And the Houston Texans took Deshaun Watson. Personally, if I had to take a quarterback in this draft, that was the one I wanted. I just, I know he maybe doesn't have all the, attributes, but there's just something about watching him play football, and I'm like, that guy is fun to watch, and he's, he just makes the plays when it counts. So I think the Texans set themselves up. They're all in right now. They've got a defense. They've got, a solid offense around them. They just need that quarterback, and they're hoping Deshaun Watson's that guy. So what do you guys think about Deshaun Watson going to the Texans?
Go ahead, Hoagie, if you want to take that one.
I mean, they needed somebody. They have literally nobody. I think my main concern is quarterbacks are always going to be overvalued. I don't think Deshaun Watson's a 10th overall pick, but that's never the case with quarterbacks. And also, it always comes down to, where teams sit in the order to draft, and if they need a quarterback. At that point, if they do, they run that risk of basically like the Chiefs and the Browns. But no, I think it's fine. I think he brings excitement to the Texans, who have not really had anything to be proud of in the past couple of years. I mean, I think it's been since the last time I think anyone got really excited down there was for Yates and Whedon. So, and that's not really excitement to me. So then you got to go way back to Schaub. So if he doesn't win you a lot of games, I think he's at least going to bring buzz back into the city of Houston as far as football is concerned.
Houston, obviously there's a lot of hope for Brock, and that didn't work out. And there was a lot of hope for Ryan Mallett when he went there, and that didn't really work out. Of course, they had Hoyer. I mean, they've gone through an array of kind of garbage quarterbacks since Schaub.
We know how they feel.
Since Schwab.
Yeah. And, so I do like Watson. We'll see what happens there. But the biggest quarterback story, I think, of this first round has got to be Mitch Trubisky. Like I said, rumored to go to the Browns. There was thoughts that if the Browns did take Garrett, that he'd be waiting for the Bears at the 3 spot for the taking. And then the Bears did something no one really saw coming, and that was trade with the Niners, who were sitting at 2, traded up 1 spot, and gave up a freaking ton of picks for Mitch Trubisky. First of all, kudos to John Lynch, the first-year GM over there in San Francisco, for pulling off a heist of a haul of draft picks to literally swap spots. Still grab the guy they grabbed Solomon Thomas, the guy they wanted it to, and here you are as the Chicago Bears. You sign Mike Glennon to a big contract. He's your big quarterback free agent signing, kind of the top free agent quarterback out there. You can make some argument that maybe Jay Cutler is in that discussion, but they sign Glennon and then they draft Trubisky, and it seems to me they're sort of the laughingstock of this draft this year, and I don't know if you guys agree with that assessment or not.
There was nothing more hilarious than watching the fan reaction video at their the draft party in Chicago, because you can just see them mouthing like, "Why did we get a quarterback?" And it reminds me that here, I guess we'll wait and see. We still don't know who's going to be the starter. I still would assume Glennon, it's his job first. But then again, if you're giving up all that
Trubisky said yes. He said he was told Glennon is the starter right now. So,
right.
But you know how that
which
goes.
Is good. Once again, but I think that if everything goes the way it's supposed to, Glennon should outperform Trubisky by I think a decent margin, and then Trubisky learns and gets better, and then will usurp, because Glennon's 27 years old. He, once again, not a guy that you would think like, okay, this guy's washed up and everything. He's clearly, he's got his better years still ahead of him, for according to a lot of people. That's why he was a lot of money. This reminds me a lot of Seattle a couple of years ago when they signed Matt Flynn to a kind of a decently high paying contract from the Packers, and then drafted Russell Wilson in the 2nd or 3rd round, and it was Matt Flynn's job to lose, and then he lost it.
I was going to say that wasn't. Yeah, he just lost it, which I think Glennon could do in this case. If Glennon comes in and sucks, loses the job.
Oh, sure, that's always a possibility. But when I look at that as, I think everyone went in assuming that Matt Flynn was the starter in Seattle, and then you had like an athletic young kid who is very intelligent that can definitely learn the game from Matt Flynn, and then he would probably be the future of Seattle. And then after two preseason games, they just realized, wow, he's a lot better than Matt Flynn. So we'll see. I mean, I still once again, Mitch Trubisky at 2. The only thing I can think of is the Niners told the Bears, "Hey, we're pretty sure you want a quarterback, and we've got offers for our second round spot. So what can you offer us?" Because
it's possible, but
if that's not the case, then the Bears didn't need to do anything. They could just sit there, because the 49ers weren't going to take a quarterback.
Well, I think if there was any team that was going to take a quarterback right there, it would have been the Niners. I agree with you. I don't think they were planning on it. I think the Bears got spooked, jumped, and kudos to the Niners for whatever they did to help make that happen. But I think the Bears, had they just sat tight, would have had him fall to him at 3. That said, so the 3 quarterbacks, who do you think is going to? What are your guys' prediction? Who pans out the best, and who do you think is going to make the maybe the quickest? It might not be the same quarterback. Who makes the quickest I can't think of the word I want to use right now. The
Impact.
Transition.
Impact. That's the word I want to do. The quickest impact. But who might be the long-term best quarterback out of this group of guys here?
I think Watson will make the quickest impact just because I think he's starting. I mean, he's going to be the guy. I think long-term, though, again, back to what you said, and if it was the Browns' strategy, kudos to them. I think Mahomes is going to be, I think in 5 years from now, Mahomes will be, I don't want to say the better, but maybe just running a better team, whether it's because he got coached better or got to sit behind Alex Smith for a few years or something like that. I think he will eventually usurp the other two.
See, I kind of disagree with that only because I think that Alex Smith, first of all, unless he really drops like badly, because he plays into Andy Reid's offense perfectly. That is a match made in heaven between the two of them. So this was definitely somebody to prep obviously into it. I still think Alex Smith overall is a much more gifted and talented quarterback, clearly, than Mahomes is. So mine would actually be Trubisky because I think his ceiling is higher, especially if he doesn't start right away and gets sacrificed, and fed to the wolves really early. If Mike Glennon can at least steer the ship for a couple of years, then I think Mitch Trubisky's stock is going to raise much quicker than the other two, unless of course Deshaun Watson just wows everybody and is able to have like an RG3 type of rookie season.
I agree with Haddix. I think Mahomes the long-term guy. I think Watson is going to be the quick impact, but I think he sort of just becomes like a middle-of-the-pack kind of quarterback in the NFL. But I think he'll show some flashes early on, and with the team around him might have some success. I think Trubisky is going to end up being a failure because I think the Bears are going to put him out there too early, and then I think Fox is going to lose his job, and there's going to be a big overhaul in management, coaching, and all that, and I think he's going to fall into the Cleveland Browns syndrome of previous quarterbacks. That's just my thought. I wish them all the best, but it'll be interesting to see. Yeah. So that said, the another topic worth discussing is fantasy impact, and I'd like to get your guys' thoughts. I think this was supposed to be a very defensive heavy draft, and I think out of the first 15 picks, like 10 of them were offensive players, so it was a big shock to a lot of people. So, who do you guys, see making an immediate impact in the fantasy world? Is there a guy that sticks out for you, or maybe a guy joins a team and you say, you know what, that guy in that spot is going to make that offense that much better, and I, look to get quarterback A now because I think they've just improved heavily.
Well, I think the obvious answer is Corey Davis. I think the Rams took him. I'm sorry.
No,
the
Titans took him with the Rams pick.
With the Rams pick. Yeah. So I think immediately Corey Davis, because I don't think the Titans don't exactly have that type of wide receiver. They have a couple
I think it
guys.
Drastically helps that. I think he'll be decent, this year as far as fantasy. Wide receivers for rookie years always are kind of like a crapshoot how well they do. But I agree. I think he'll be strong there. But I think it really, really helps Mariota. I think it just really increases his value.
And also, when you get another wide receiver for the Chargers, they had, when they're all healthy, that's a very, very strong wide receiver core. But they're so prone to injury that it's good to get another guy. So they went and drafted Mike Williams.
I love Mike Williams too.
And so that to me, obviously they got to share the catches. But once again, they lost. They don't have Keenan Allen anymore. And I think it just makes sense for him to be there. He's going to learn from a lot of very talented receivers on that team. And Phillip Rivers is going to. Phillip Rivers, when he's healthy, is usually a top 5 fantasy quarterback anyway. So he'll get his touches as long as he stays healthy.
Oh yeah, no, I think it'll that Phillip Rivers and the Chargers offense has a lot of targets, and Keenan Allen is still on the team. I mean, he gets hurt, but he's still there.
Yeah. Who am I thinking that they lost? Was it Eddie Royal they lost last year?
They may have lost Eddie Royal, but I wouldn't be too worried about Eddie Royal taking targets from anybody. They lost Henry, that tight end. He went to Pittsburgh.
That's right.
They got another guy.
I think I'm thinking Eddie Royal. I think Eddie Royal went somewhere else last year.
Hasn't he been with the Bears or something for a while? I don't know where Eddie Royal's at these days. But no. And another guy worth mentioning, kind of on a similar situation, is going to be Jameis Winston with the Buccaneers. Obviously, they added just Deshaun Jackson in free agency, and then got arguably the best tight end and possibly one of the best wideouts in the draft in O.J. Howard. So definitely look forward to, Winston already had some great fantasy years his first 2 years in the league, and I think he could be poised for a big fantasy year with the addition of him.
Yep, like I said, and I think Watson might. I think Watson's going to get drafted in a lot of leagues, and I could see him. Putting up some good games, especially if you start him against the right teams.
Yeah, you'll have Hopkins catching balls, so
yeah.
Hopkins.
You know who's going to be a really weird one is, and once again, it doesn't always reflect into your NFL career based on what you do in your college career. But Christian McCaffrey has always been just so good at everything that it's going to be really challenging for the Panthers to really find where to put him in their offense. Once again, he's a running back that literally did everything for was it Stanford?
Something like that. Yeah.
They related him to what's his name? Mark's dude. He played on the Eagles and the Saints.
Darren Sproles.
Sproles. Yeah.
I will say, I think Christian McCaffrey, if you're drafting one rookie out of this draft for your fantasy team this year, I think that's the one I draft.
Especially PPR.
Yeah, and I think with Cam, running backs with a running quarterback of success like at his level of Cam's, I think it really boosts his value. So I like Leonard Fournette is probably the most talented running back coming out of this. He went to Jacksonville, and I think he'll be okay, but I think McCaffrey has a better shot of being more fantasy relevant this year anyways.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Who do you think really shown as far as improving the roster overall in this first round? I feel like there's some guys that they definitely were focusing more on the defensive side of the ball. I said that the Jets, I think, made a very intelligent pick.
Oh, the Jets was like a no-brainer. But the problem with the Jets now is I feel like every year the Jets are in that position where they're drafting in the top 10, and arguably the most talented player in the draft falls to them, and it's defense. And they're like, well, it's really hard for us to pass on this player, this year being Jamal Adams. And they're like, okay, we'll take him. And yet their offense continues to struggle because it just seems like they get the best player in the draft every year, and it becomes a defensive player.
Yeah, who's going to be the Jets starting quarterback?
I don't know if they know yet at this point. I don't.
I thought they re-signed Fitzmagic.
I don't think so. I think they signed him just to a 1-year deal last year, and if he is on the team, I don't think they want anything to do with him anymore. I know Jay Cutler was rumored there. Yeah, headaches? No.
I was looking real quick, but yeah, I don't think he's on the team.
As far as, it's hard to say. It's one round of the draft. Obviously you could say the Browns picking 3 players in the first round bodes well for the team, and they're all very talented. Of course, the Jabril Peppers, with him sort of being a hybrid safety defensive back, there's some questions there to see how he's going to get used. I would say the Titans did very well with what they, who they drafted.
Yep.
Those are a couple of my favorites. And I think honestly, the Washington Redskins had Jonathan Allen, who was, a lot of people mocked in the top 5, maybe one of the most talented players. There's some shoulder injury issues that were question marks, and he fell to them at 17. It was probably one of their top needs. And not only did they get a need, but arguably one of the best players. So I think that could be one of those you look back in a couple of years and be like, man, that was a steal that the Redskins got there. So that's one that sticks out to me for sure.
Are you glad that we did not pull the trigger on a trade with Kirk Cousins?
It sounds like that, Ian Rappaport and a couple other people were reporting that, and then other people closer to the Redskins were reporting that was false. So I don't think it's a matter of if we pulled the trigger or not. I don't even know how much truth there was to it. That said, I would have absolutely loved if instead of drafting one of our players, we had used that, because the rumor was we were going to take that 12th pick and trade it for Kirk Cousins. I'd have done that in a heartbeat, and I would have thought that this was a phenomenal move by the Browns. So, yes, I guess I would have pulled the trigger, and I would have probably not thought twice about it.
Well, I guess your other option is you don't do anything. You don't even trade to the Texans, and you take Deshaun Watson. Are you happier that we traded down with the Texans to let them take Watson, or would you have been happier to get Watson at 12?
If my options are, I think I'm happier with what transpired. Obviously Watson can go out there and become a stud, and then I'll be like, well, that sucks, but we'll wait and see what happens. But I think I like it. And then the Browns now have 2 first-round picks next year and 3 second-round picks next year. Obviously, the better quarterback draft class is setting up to be next year. Of course, that changes. That fluctuates as the years go on, or as the season goes on and the college season transpires. But
how many second round picks do we have this year?
Well, we gave one up to move back into this round, so we may only have one now. I'd have to double check. We either have 1 or 2. We may have 1 second still, and then a couple of third round picks or something like that. So we definitely came stocked, and now we leave the draft with 3 first round picks. And
so who didn't have a first round pick? I know. Did the Patriots not have a first round pick?
No, the Patriots gave it to the Saints when they traded Brandon Cooks,
which is an amazing trade.
Yeah, so that was a big one. The Vikings didn't have one, and the Rams didn't have one, because the Vikings traded theirs to the Eagles, and the Rams, of course, traded theirs to the Titans last year for Jared Goff.
Which, not an amazing trade.
No, has not looked out well for them so far. That said, we're kind of wrapping things up. First round, obviously, there's still plenty of draft picks to go. A lot of talent still out there. Reuben Foster, of course, one of the top probably prospects that a lot of people thought should have been a steal going late in the first round with his injury concerns, and still not picked. So I think that's a big one. Deshaun Kaiser, obviously the big quarterback name, as well as I want to call him David Webb, but I don't think his name's David Webb, the other quarterback. So those are kind of some of the big quarterback names to watch. Foster, obviously the big talent that's big name talent that's out there. So you guys, let's end on this. You have to grade the Browns' first round draft. What are you giving it, Haddix?
B+.
Hoagie?
You know what? It's hard to grade now based on the fact that we could have gotten Deshaun Watson, but at the same time we got decent value for it. I give him a B.
I think I'm gonna give him a B+ as well. But I think we all agree. Obviously, you got Myles Garrett. That should be, if you said at the end of the day you draft, you had, most people have 1 draft pick in the first round, and we got the most talented on paper and everything else player in the draft with that pick. And then on top of it, we got a couple of other guys who are very, very well hyped and with some talent. So you got to like what they did, and hopefully that keeps going forward and these pan out. But we could revisit this in 2 years and we have another Richardson Whedon or Gilbert Manziel on our hands. So you never know. Hopefully that's not the case, but we'll see. But that's going to be our show for this week. Don't forget, follow us at Pseudo Nerd Pod on Twitter. Look for us on Facebook. Go to pseudonerdpod.com for all of our social media accounts and give us your thoughts. Maybe we'll do an impromptu poll asking for the PMPers votes on the Browns first round draft grades. And that said, if you listen to this before Sunday, we will be live streaming TMT Shadows of the Past board game. So we had a lot of success with our last board game. We're going to do that one again and then review it for next week's 90-minute show. From the Great Lakes to the Golden Gate, I'm Josh Kaiser. He is Josh Heddix, and he is Kyle Hoagland. And we will see you guys next time.
Have a good Friday.
See ya.